there, YouTube. Air of Carthage back with some more Shogun 2 Total War online multiplayer. You can see my opponent there and my name, and of course we were playing on the Foothills map. This was the map where I brought you my first video on the on this graphics card, and it's the same one where I got wasted by the warrior monks, whom I now understand a lot better. I understand that warrior monks really prefer to be exploded into the next world by ninjas. So yeah, anyway. It's kind of a good reference to my last video. If you haven't seen it yet, you might want to watch it. Before any of you ask, someone told me about this cool zoom-in feature. I'll be trying to do it from time to time in the battle. It's where you can push the in button on your keyboard, and wherever your mouse cursor is, it'll kind of zoom in that vicinity. So here's my army. I think you might like that cool cinematic view there. I brought a pretty unconventional army. I brought a few units that you may not have seen before in my videos. I mean, you may have seen them in other people's videos, but I tried to bring a couple of units that are different. For those of you who have been begging to see new types of units. Now up front you're going to see nothing different here. These are my Lone Sword Ashigaru. There they are running up the hill, hence the name Foothills. I've got 4 of these guys. I have 3 Yari Samurai who are, well, here's one of them. I didn't know these guys were colored purple. I didn't mean to do that, but oh well. I guess they can be the Purple Menace, but check out these guys' names. I'm very proud of this name that I made up for them. It's called Yes, We Stabbed There. I don't know if any of you all will get Air's humor, but just think about it for a while. Okay, and then my other veteran units that I have Stop with the Pain. This is another one of my Yari Samurai units, and right here we'll do another cool zoom-in thing. This is Poke Your Eye Out, Yari Samurai. I noticed these guys are all carrying swords. Can you make them fight with the swords? Because that'd sure be handy in a melee. But it'd probably make them like a better all-around unit. I don't know. If anybody has an answer to that, let me know. Here, of course, is the old Patchter. You can see him right there in his nice default armor. And out on the flank, I've brought some bow cavalry. Some of you have been asking about bow cavalry because I haven't yet used it in this game, at least not on an online battle that I've showed you. I have used it before. So I have one of them that's a veteran unit. I haven't yet named them. I don't know, maybe if someone gives me a good suggestion, I'll use it in the comments. I mean, I won't guarantee it, but I sure might. So if you have any funny suggestions, you know, let me know. And they are firing at this enemy unit out here. There's a Yari Ashigaru attempting to capture this building. They're in loose formation, so I don't expect to cause much damage. I'm just trying to anger my opponent. So let's take a look at my opponent's army. He's got 2 units of Matchlock Ashigaru. And then right here, he's got some Beast Cavalry. These guys are the Great Guard. This is a 1600 Koku unit plus its experience, which means it's probably a little bit more expensive than that. He's also got 2 Bow Warrior monks. And I forgot to show you that I actually have the same. I've also brought 2 Bow Warrior monks. So these guys have 175 range instead of 150, and they have extremely good accuracy and reload rates. So if you bring them, don't just let them sit there in a regular fight with Ashigaru archers, or else you're wasting them, because there's only 75 of them in each unit and there's 120 Ashigaru. So you want to use that range advantage, or else you've just wasted your money, which is a lot. They cost 1,000 Koku. Alright, let's continue with my opponent's army. He did come down the hill at first, but you can see that my opponent is definitely going to camp this hill. It's part of his strategy, and I don't really have any problem with that. Some of you seem angry towards people who do it, and you know, I won't deprive you of that right if you want to be. You can see that he's got a unit of European cannons. I'll show you those in a second. They're firing on my my men. This right here is a sword dojo. If you capture it, it increases your sword stats, your attack. This is a shrine that increases your morale. My opponent was actually sitting here firing at these Yari Samurai that are in loose formation. This is my Yes, We Stabbed There unit. And I used them to capture the shrine. My opponent destroyed it, so now it doesn't do anything for me, but little did my opponent know that he was, whether I captured it or whether he destroyed it, he was still serving my purpose. You always want to make your opponent serve your purpose, and I will explain that in just a moment. And now I'm going to move these guys off over here to capture this archery dojo. Now if my opponent were to move several units to come attack me, I would of course isolate and destroy those units. If he can't send cavalry, that's why I sent Yari Samurai instead of Lone Sword Ashigaru. That's because he can't send cavalry, and I put them in loose formation, obviously, to protect against fire from his cannons. Now out here, I'm harassing his Great Guard with my bow cav. It's not really causing much damage because have good armor stats, so it's kind of hard to get bow kills on him, but it'll at least tire them out and annoy my opponent. He's set up in full defensive formation now. Let's see, I told you he had 2 Matchlock Ashigaru. He's got these 2 Bow Warrior Monks. He's got the European Cannon. Right here, he's got a Yari Ashigaru with 3 chevrons. He's got another Yari Ashigaru right there with 1 chevron. He's got a Yari Samurai with 3 chevrons there. Let's see, does he only have 2 Matchlock units? Yes, he's got 2 Matchlock units. And then he's got this Nodashi Samurai right here with 2 chevrons. And he's got his Avatar's Bodyguard. And then where he spent most of his money, right, it was right here on this 2 chevron Katana Hero. This thing's probably costing somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,700 to 1,800 koku. That's a whole lot of spend for only 30 men. Yes, their stats are absolutely freaking amazing. But whether or not it's worth it, I'll let you decide. There's a good look at him with the Great Guard in the background. So nice cinematic look for you. Oh, by the way, this battle is extremely long, so don't be worried that you're missing a whole lot of action. Here's his European Cannon. Now earlier I told you that I was letting these guys just shoot at me. I'll get you a cinematic view of them here. Earlier I told you that I was just letting these guys shoot at me. And part of the reason I was doing that is because they do have limited ammunition, just like every other siege unit on this game. It's not like Napoleon Total War, where you have unlimited cannon ammo. In fact, it's probably something that should have been built in the Napoleon Total War. But in any case, you do not have unlimited ammo, and it's in fact extremely limited. My opponent has these things set up pretty well, being on top of a hill. But you can also see that there is like a bit of a rise. Like if you were to try and fire down here towards that building that you see right there, it would actually hit this bump. So he doesn't have the best positioning, but he has good positioning if I attacked right here from the front. So when you can see that your opponent is guarding a certain area and they want you to attack there, the question is, where should you attack then? Not there. Anywhere but there. So there's air strategy on that. Attack anywhere besides there. Let me get you a cinematic view from over here. Oh. There we go. I'll let you watch the cannon fire towards my men. No, I'm not going to put it in slow motion. You can see I'm actually moving my men up over and over the hill. He's firing at my Bow Warrior Monks. That kind of sucks for me because that is an expensive unit. But they are in loose formation, and then behind them is just Lone Sword Ashigaru, so my opponent may be hitting men, but the bark of these European cannons is much worse than their bite if you're in loose formation, and it's really not going to cause an extensive amount of damage. So don't go rushing up a hill into some retarded position just because you don't like your men being hit with cannonballs. I don't like my men being hit by these cannonballs, but if you look, it's not causing a whole lot of damage, like 4 men from that one unit, 5 from that one. I mean, it's just not that bad. And so don't go freaking out over it. It's totally not worth it. Alright, you can see I'm rejoining my archers with these, yes, we stabbed their Yari Samurai. And what I'm doing is I'm forming up a defensive line here. I've got my spears to protect these archers. My opponent only has 1 unit of cavalry, so it should be pretty easy for me to protect these 2 archers with 3 units of spears. And I'm going to use these guys extreme range. But you might be thinking, hey, well, he has the bow monks and he has the hill. Well, that's what my horse archers are for. Here, I'm using the better range of my horse archers to harass his Matchlock Ashigaru. I'm loving whoever told me about this camera thing because I'm going to use it a lot. So there you can see my arrows flying in and killing some of these Matchlock Ashigaru. And this is just basically going to anger my opponent into either pulling further back up the hill, at which point I'll just pursue him, or moving some of his units around to try and outrange my cavalry. So here he tries to move forward a little bit, but I just simply move my horses back. And when you bring horse archers, you have to push the fact that these things are skirmish units. That, you know, they're not meant to just stand there and duke it out. You've got to use them to skirmish effectively. And skirmishing means hitting your opponent from range and quickly removing yourself from any danger. That way you maximize losses on the enemy and minimize losses on yourself. So you can see I have these guys in loose formation. I do have them set on the automatic skirmish, which is a mistake, and I will show you why later. I mean, you can use it sometimes, but you want to be careful. Now check this out. My opponent had to move 1 of his Bow Warrior Monks over here to try and protect his Matchlock units. So I keep my horses close, but not within their range. And the reason for that is now I'm going to move up my 2 Bow Warrior Monks to fire at his now only 1 Bow Warrior Monk that's over here. So that was my strategy there. I was trying to get my opponent to reallocate units, and then check it out. Here comes my flaming arrows. And his men are in loose formation, And I used the flaming arrows because I knew that some of his Yari Samurai and his Bow Warrior monks would get killed. Because I'm firing up and over the hill, my arc isn't perfect here, but I'm causing extensive damage to his Yari Samurai. So check that out. Yep, so I tricked my opponent into reallocating his forces in such a way that it put him at a disadvantage. So now I have 2 bows to his 1, and my archers are outside of the range of his Bow Warrior monks over here. So these guys are standing here accomplishing nothing, whilst my archers are over here causing basically double damage. So you can see that I killed 6 of those Bow Warrior monks and 31 Yari Samurai. So that was a pretty devastating attack. You can see from some of the looks on his men's face here. There they are, rolling around on the ground. Oh man, check that dude out. Arrow right through the neck. Oh, that's awful. This one's got one right in the chest. So anyway, there's some nice, some gruesome death shots for those of you who like that. And see, look, you see these skid marks right in front of his cannons? That's what I was talking about. So now that I'm closer to this hill, my opponent's cannons really have a poor angle, and they're very quickly running out of ammo. So I've moved up my Bow Warrior monks once again to start pulling the same business on his men. And you can see my opponent learned from his mistake. Oh, he fired fire arrows. I should have run back quicker. I didn't. But when someone fires fire arrows, if you just move your troops really quick, you can actually minimize the damage that those fire arrows will cause. But you can see that I still have most of my archers intact there. I'm doing pretty well. And look, as soon as he reallocated his Bow Warrior monk, look, I'm pushing right back up on his flank with my bow cav, and I'm going to force him to reallocate again. So I'm just going to continue to harass my opponent. I'm actually going to put it in fast forward for the time being. And you'll see that I'm just going to continue to do this to my opponent. And that way he's constantly fighting at a disadvantage in the skirmish. And I mean, you definitely want things to be this way. It's just I knew my army had a skirmishing advantage. I knew my opponent's army had like a firepower advantage, and obviously a terrain advantage. So I'm not going to play the game that my opponent wants me to play. I'm going to play it the way that I need to play it. So here, let me see if this is the part I was talking about. Yeah, here his Great Guard comes out chasing me. And I take a whole bunch of pot shots at him. You can see that I still haven't killed a single one of them with my arrows. So these guys are pretty much immune to arrows, which is unfortunate. I'm not really sure they should be, because as much as the guys are armored, their horse isn't. And they would still, in real life, be very vulnerable. But they do that because it's a hero unit. They don't want you to spend 1,600 koku and then just be ticked off. Now look what the auto skirmish did to me. My men skirmish right back here into the corner. And they're much faster than this Great Guard unit, but this is the problem. You've got to manually skirmish your troops, or else they'll do something stupid like this. And by the time I actually convince these guys to actually run out of this fight, they'll be dead. Because the Great Guard will just absolutely mess them up. So yeah, you can see some of the action there. My bow cav just got slaughtered, more or less. And they were right next to the line, so they immediately leave the battlefield, which sucks because I won't get them back, and I only caused 0 losses to the Great Guard. Yeah, so now I've kind of learned my lesson, and I'm going to try and manually skirmish my troops. I think I do make one more mistake, but you can obviously see what it is that I'm trying to help you learn here. So I went ahead and just left my archers out to skirmish because I had such an advantage on my opponent. My opponent does have both of his bow troops left, but both of them are now useless. They're almost out of ammo just like mine, and they're down in numbers to where they can't pose a significant threat to my army. So effectively I have won the bow fight just by making sure that my opponent's bows can't be used against me. So I hope you enjoyed that little lesson on how to maximize the damage that your ranged units can do. But my bow cavalry most certainly aren't out of ammo, and I'm going to use them to as much effect as I can. Here he's chasing me with these matchlock. Yep, you see him chasing me around with the matchlock, and I'm just going to continue to harass these guys. I'm going to put it in fast forward. You can see I've whittled these guys down to less than half strength now, just from using superior skirmishing. And so, I mean, there's another unit that my opponent can't effectively use against me now whenever I'm forced to charge up the hill. So right here, I make kind of a questionable decision. I decided to charge these matchlock Ashigaru with my bow horsemen, and I take quite a few losses being shot on the way in. I was hoping to catch my opponent out of position. He did, however, turn and give the order to fire, and so that was my mistake. But this matchlock unit is so torn up that they are going to die. So I did shatter that matchlock unit, and the reason that's good is because it's just one less unit, obviously, that's going to be firing at my men when I do charge up the hill. So here's my my bow horsemen. They finally have managed to get a few kills on this Great Guard. I've killed 5 of them. But still, that unit's very much a threat to me because most of my infantry is sword infantry, and I don't have heavy cavalry to counter them with. If I had some Yari Cav, I might be able to pincer them and take them out of the fight. But I don't have Yari Cav, so I have to rely on my skirmishing. So you can see my opponent's army is very much whittled down from what it was earlier, and now his European cannons are just a waste of a lot of koku because their ammunition's gone. And if you want to know where Patchy has been this whole fight, check it out. Patchy has been behind this hill where his cannon can't possibly hit me. So that is how you beat camping artillery, is you do not offer them the target of your general. And you make sure to use your skirmishing to its maximum when you have an opponent who is going to sit around with his artillery. Yeah, right here was where I had another skirmish problem. My men got caught. His general has the flaming arrow ability. This player actually outranks me. In fact, the last couple of players that I played, including the ninja battle, did outrank me. But you know, rank can be an issue. I mean, some of you people are saying, oh, it's impossible to beat these highly veteran armies. It's most definitely not impossible. But you definitely have to think smart when you're trying to do it. Now here my opponent made the mistake of thinking he could just break my bow Ashigaru in one single quick charge and get out of there. And you can see that he's having a hard time disconnecting his units from the fight. Now, sword Ashigaru are terrible versus Cav, but now that I've recharged in my bow Cav and both my sword units, my opponent is going to lose his Great Guard. And you may be thinking, well, Air, you just lost one of your sword units. Yeah, well, that sword unit only cost... actually, that was my beat-up bow Cav unit, so it was pretty much done anyway, so never mind. I do lose one of my sword units, though, because here comes this Yari Ashigaru. These guys are already depleted also from my arrow fire. So I did lose this sword fodder, which is my veteran unit, but I am going to go ahead and destroy the remainder of these Yari Ashigaru. So now my opponent is down 2 more units, and what's great is that this unit's going to come back from routing. So I actually ended up losing only 1 unit there, and my opponent lost 2, and one of his was extremely expensive. So it was definitely worth it for me. So now my opponent is using his general because that's really his only skirmishing option, but I still have my bow Cav, so he's not really going to want to just keep doing that. And I'm bringing Patchy on over, and I'm going to use him to help force my opponent into action as well. And when your opponent chooses to take the terrain, some of you have seen me take terrain, and you might be thinking, oh, it's kind of cheap air to just go up there and take the terrain. But look what I'm doing to my opponent for taking the terrain. This is what you have to do. You have to surround your opponent. You have to make it hard for them to defend that terrain. You have to whittle them down with your skirmishing forces before you commit to an infantry fight. And here, my opponent is whittled down to the point where I can commit to an infantry fight. Here's my yes, we stab there, and hopefully they're stabbing those warrior monks there. They're going to pretty easily win this fight. Now, the bow warrior monks are obviously much better at defending themselves than regular archers, but they're still not a match for a full unit of infantry like I had. Now here, let's see, what unit is this? Oh, this is the enemy katana hero. Yeah, so these guys are bad news, and I mean, they're going to absolutely chew up my yes, we stab there unit. In fact, my yes, we stab there will be getting stabbed there by these katana heroes. I'm sorry for all the retarded jokes. But in any case, whoop. Yeah, you can see that this fight is going to be pretty gruesome. These guys are just far better sword units, and of course I don't have sword units in this fight, I have Yari units, so my men were already at a disadvantage, and then being against these katana heroes is going to be a major disadvantage. So you can see my men absolutely getting pwned there, and his katana hero hasn't even lost 1 man. But I did win the other fights on the front. Well, I say win them, pretty much. I only had Lone Sword at, well, this is one of my Yari Samurai. He got beat on a downhill by his, by a couple of his units, I think. I don't remember. But over here, my Lone Sword Ashigaru are absolutely screwing up these Nodashi Samurai because I had them surrounded. So yeah, I'm winning the fight pretty much everywhere except for that Katana Hero unit. They only lost 1 man and shattered my entire unit of Yari Samurai. Here I have to be careful because I do have my 2 Lone Sword units in this fight, but I also have to keep Patchy safe. I can't let him get killed. And so you can see that I moved Patchy back out of the way. My opponent's trying to charge him with these Yari Samurai, but I'm just not going to let that happen. Because he could still very much win this fight with those Katana Heroes if he took out my general. But I'm not going to let him take out my general. So let's take a look at the final stand of these Katana Hero. Maybe I can get you a better view here. There they are, fighting it out with my men. Let's see if I can move the cursor out of the way. There we go. So I'll let you just watch the end of this fight and see how long these guys hold on there. I hope you learned something from the strategy. Like I said, I know the battle was kind of long, but sometimes these long battles are where you can learn how to beat, seasoned and veteran opponents. It takes some strategy. If I would have just run up the hill, straight off, my opponent would have absolutely slaughtered me because he would have had his matchlock Ashigaru intact. They would have shot me. My men would have been demoralized. My men would have routed. That's why I took my sweet time and made sure to whittle down my opponent and to play every weakness he had against him. Now, my opponent could have played weaknesses against me too, because my infantry was none too great. And I kind of think my opponent, had he just attacked me, like just straight up attacked me with his infantry, and slammed into the rear of me with his Great Guard, he could have routed my infantry in no time. That's what I would have done if I were him, but he chose a more defensive strategy. It's a strategy that takes patience to beat, but it can be beaten. So for those of you who are saying that artillery camping in this game is a real problem, I had my general get killed once, and I lost a battle where a fire-projecting mangonel killed my general. And, it sucks, it happens, but from then on out, I learned, never take my general within range of those siege weapons, just use your men. And once you get the opportunity, then you can bring your general up. And so it was my fault for not having been more patient. And again, I understand some of you get annoyed by those tactics because a lot of people consider it to be dishonorable. But, on Shogun, the artillery is actually fairly well balanced, just plainly due to the fact that its ammunition is extremely limited and it costs quite a bit. So I think they balance it out pretty well. So there's my men cheering with success. They finally killed the Katana Hero. Hope you enjoyed that fight and this battle. Hope it taught you something. Please leave any questions or comments there in the comment section, and I'll make sure to read them all. Whether or not I get to respond to them is a different story, but I'll also splice in the results. Hope you enjoyed that. And after that battle, I finally got ranked up to the 7-star, so I'm on my way, hopefully. Keep trying to do well.